Now, I'm going to get choked up about this, okay? I can promise you there's going to be tears.
I had to say no. And I had to do something about it.
This is not really aligning with my dream here.
It is the hardest thing I think I've had to do.
I remember thinking, now this is exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted this. I had this glamorous lifestyle. I wanted that. And I really wasn't happy.
I just crawled up into a corner and cried my eyes out.
Don't waste another moment living your life if you're not living it on your terms.
I got 5 promotions in 7 years and I tripled my salary.
But I say, that
you have one life. When are you going to make your dreams come true?
Some of you may know me, maybe I'm a familiar face. I work at Women for Women Foundation, and I'll tell you about something else that I started before that. My story doesn't start in 2008, but I'm going to start it in 2008. When on a Wednesday morning, I woke up, had a look at my life. I was in a marriage where my husband was controlling, violent, threatening. I really didn't feel like I was living the life I thought I deserved to live. And you know what? I said, fuck this shit. No. 2 letters and a whole sentence. Okay? No. No, 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 no. And how many times have you wanted to tell someone no? Someone who's taking advantage of you, a boss who's asking too much of you, a family member who's taking too much from you. How many times have you wanted to say no, and you don't, and you go on, and you go along, because it's just easier to do that? We can all think of the last time this happened, and maybe it's not even that long ago, maybe it was today, or yesterday, or last week, when you wish or wanted to say no to someone, because they're asking too much from you. And I'm standing in a room with women. We are socialized not to say no. We are socialized from a young age to endure, to put up with, to tolerate bad behavior, people taking too much of us, expecting too much from us. We are expected not to disrupt, to be well behaved, to toe the line, to go on, giving and giving and giving of ourselves until there's nothing left. We are socialized into it. But I say, fuck that shit. Right? I have permission to swear. To me, saying no was very scary. There were repercussions, okay? There were consequences for saying no. But I had to say no. Because to keep on saying yes was an injustice to me. It was me forgetting myself. Saying no came from a place of self-love, of self-respect. I need to say no to this kind of behavior because I'm done making excuses for someone else's bad behavior. Right? No more. And saying no came at a high price. Life after 2008, for the next at least 10 years, was very difficult. There were times when I just crawled up into a corner and cried my eyes out. Because it's very difficult. I had 2 children at the time, 3 and 5, when I left. That Wednesday morning, I packed my things in a dustbin bag. And you look at your life, at the things you have accumulated over the last 6 years or so, sitting in a dustbin bag, in a rubbish bag. You know what that does to you? But I had to say no. And I had to do something about it. And it's difficult. It's not easy. It is the hardest thing I think I've had to do. And in these 15 minutes, or what's left of them, I want to talk about some of these pivotal moments of my life which have led me to where I am here today. Saying no was one of them. And I know that it's a superpower, right? We're not taught to say no from a very young age. Children who say no are difficult. It's difficult to parent children who say no. But you have to let your kids disagree with you. You have to let them have a voice. You have to let them say no. Because they'll grow up and you want them to be able to say no to the next person who's going to take advantage of them. It is the hard thing, but we have to teach it. We have to allow it. We have to make space for it. Saying no is a gift that we give ourselves. Because when we say no, then we say yes. I said yes to the possibility of living a life which aligned with what I think I deserved, with being treated better. It said yes to the possibility of doing something better, of investing in myself. There was no way my ex-husband was going to allow me to invest in myself. When I left him, I went to university. And I finished. I mean, are you ever really finished from university? I don't know. It's addictive, you keep going back. But for now, so I kept on studying until just 2020, or 2021 in this case. But the thing is, none of that would have happened if I hadn't said no, if I hadn't put my foot down and said, you know what, I deserve better. I need to give that to myself. This is a photo from the first apartment I rented when I left a shelter. So I went to a shelter with my children, and this is a photo of hope. This is a photo of positivity. And what I want to highlight here is that leaving is only one part. Saying no is only one part. Healing is a whole other ball game. Okay? Yeah. So you need to really invest in yourself and think, how do I move on? So I've put my foot down and I've walked away, as dangerous as it is, as hard as it is, and in all that struggle and everything, because you have to do it all on your own, right? How do I remain positive? And to me, healing, I find healing in positivity, in creating something out of something bad. Because in my experience of having been through domestic violence and being outspoken, we were just talking about this in the dressing room, was that a lot of people feel that domestic violence is a horrible, ugly subject to talk about. And I'm outspoken about it. So I get invited to conferences, and I want to, people want to interview me about it. And I feel that out of this opportunity around the curiosity around a taboo subject like violence, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to raise awareness. There's an opportunity to maybe impact decision makers, policy makers around what they could do better for women who are going through it. Because at the time, I was going through the system, the legal system, the court system, police, and so on. And oh my God, if any of you have ever touched that system, you know what it means, how expensive it is, how exhausting it is, how it breaks you, shatters you on the inside and on the outside. So I could see that I wasn't the only one. Even though I was alone, the domestic violence is very isolating. There is shame. There is embarrassment, perhaps, Yes, you're the victim, even with the word of the victim, right? But because I had said no, I said no to that. I will not subscribe to whoever wants to describe, what a victim is or what it means to have been through domestic violence. I give that the meaning I want to give it. And the meaning I give it is that my experience will inform me and not break me. And through being informed by my experience, I wanted to do something, give something back, prevent this from happening to someone else by talking about it. And not just by talking about it, but by bringing women together who have been through it, so that we can talk about it together among us, support one another, and talk about it together to policymakers to make a difference, right? Because you cannot have decisions and policies being made without the people concerned being around that table. How does that work, right? So there was nothing being done at the time. And today, the proceeds are going towards Richmond Foundation and this service called SOAR. That's the service that I started in 2012 under the auspices of St. John Antide Foundation. And I wasn't alone. There were a few other women with me, but I did, let's say, the lion's share of the work there. And it was so important to me, and not just to me, but to the other women involved, because we are not what happened to us, right? I am not a victim. I am a survivor, because I did survive, right? But I'm not what happened to me. I'm Elaine. And that happened to me, and I'm bringing it with me to tell you, the policymaker, that it doesn't friggin' work to have the perpetrator and the victim waiting in the same waiting room in court. But this is what I did with my experience. I wanted something good to come out of it so that it isn't what broke me, it was what built me. This picture is a picture of hope for me, because it was me saying, you know what? No, I will not go down. I will not accept this label, right? I will not be just another number. 1 in 4 in Malta are victims of domestic violence. So look around you in this room. 1 in 4, right? We are not a number. We are people, and I and you get to decide what to make of the experience that you've been through and what to do with it. For me, it's the fire under my ass, right? That got me, it got me to say, no, something has to be done, something has to change. There are women out there who have been through this and no one can understand them, right? Why aren't they meeting each other? We need to get together. We need to listen to each other. And the craziest thing happened when we put the group together. So it was a support group and an activism group. And we sat down and we listened to each other's stories. They were freaking identical. The words we were told by our perpetrators were the same. And so women came together, understood each other, and it's amazing. SOAR does incredible work today. It is now being led by someone who began as a service user and became now the leader of the foundation, of the service. It is a survivor-run service, and that's the whole idea, right? We didn't want some social worker, nothing against social workers, love you all, mwah. Right? Brilliant people, very useful, and some of them are survivors of domestic violence themselves. But what we wanted was something grassroots, something from the bottom up. And that happened because myself and some other women went through a bad situation and did something good out of it. The next, perhaps, turning point, or let me put it like this. The emblem for SOAR is a phoenix, right? Now, I love the icon of the phoenix. That's why I made it the logo. The phoenix, the legend is that it was a firebird that flew too close to the sun, caught fire, became ashes, and was reborn out of the ashes, right? And that, to me, is resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is saying, fuck this shit, no, right? Resilience is, I will not stay down. But resilience isn't always this courageous, fire, burning, this show of strength. Resilience can be quiet. It can be crying in the shower, wiping up, and facing the day anyway. Resilience is getting out of bed after a bad day the day before. Resilience is taking a chance on new opportunities, new relationships, even when your heart has been broken. That is resilience as well. And saying no. Like a weed. Have you ever pulled a weed up? I'm a weed. You pull me up and I'm going to grow again. From somewhere, I'm just going to be there again, right? I'm going to come back because you will not get rid of me. That is resilience. And resilience is on your terms. You don't need permission to say no. You don't need to be apologetic when you say no. no, on my terms. The only permission you need to be apologetic, to be resilient, and to be positive about something terrible that has gone down in your life is yours. You only need your permission. So give yourselves permission to say no, and to be resilient, and to live on your terms, which is the line you finished with. High five. Thank you. Sorry, hold on. I have my last slide. I'm sorry. I forgot it. Okay. This is cheesy, but it is something I keep coming back to because I friggin' love it. It says, fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. How many people have told you, you can't do this, you won't survive, right? You'll never do this on your own. No one's gonna want you with 2 kids, right? Yes? Yep, of course. The warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Are you ready? Are you ready for the storm?
Take care and enjoy good health. Browns, empowering wellness by providing convenient and innovative health services.
Welcome to Maison Perrier. Discover Maison Perrier Chic and enjoy our new non-alcoholic cocktail range. Maison Perrier. Enjoy our new sophisticated mocktails.
What an honor to be here today with you, all beautiful ladies. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I was preparing for today, I initially really struggled because earlier this week, I found out that somebody that I trusted and loved betrayed me. Yeah. Has anybody ever experienced that? Hurts like a bitch, doesn't it? So what was happening to me every time I sat down to try and concentrate, and do anything productive, this thing kept consuming me and I would fall into tears or get indulge in the story again. And on the third night where I wasn't able to sleep, the thoughts are running in my head, I realized that I was trying to shove my feelings away so that I can concentrate. Because, as women, we've got stuff to do. We've got some work to get done, kids to raise. So I realized I was kind of putting everything to the side because it was inconvenient for me to feel these things at the moment. And I lay in bed and as I realized this, I said, okay, let me sit and feel what's happening. This is what I teach. And here I am catching myself suppressing because we all know what we resist persists. And in that moment, as I'm kind of sitting with these emotions, it took me back to another time. You mentioned 2020. This was back in 2020, which is, everyone knows it's COVID year. And it was a time where, despite the situation was different, the feelings were quite the same. That frustration, I felt upset, I felt there was elements of betrayal as well. And I was remembering of this time in my life, and just to paint the picture for you, in 2020, I was pregnant with my second child. I had developed 2 health conditions, one of them being, if I can manage to make this work, this acne, and the other one being tinnitus. Tinnitus is ringing in the ear. Both conditions very, very stubborn to get rid of. And the reason I had developed these conditions was because I was operating on cortisol. I was so stressed out. I had literally fucked up my hormones. And one of the contributors to me being stressed was the corporate job I was in. I was in a senior position. We're working on this project. I wasn't aligned with the values, and I just hated my job. I also was unhappy in the relationship I was in. At that time, it was a 14-year relationship. And there I was, I had been working on my mindset and reading all the self-help books and doing the courses and doing all this work for almost a decade. And there I was, 2020, looking at my life and thinking, is this it? And everybody at some point in their life is going to have that moment where you're like, is this it? And that was a moment for me where I'm like, this is not the life that I dreamed of. And I realized that at some point, I'm going to just put this away, that at some point I stopped dreaming. I sat down and I said, I'm going to give myself the permission to dream again. And I had done a lot of goal setting kind of courses and stuff. So I said, okay, let's just put this to the test. I've got nothing to lose. I'm desperate anyway. So let's just try. And I sat down and I started looking at each category of life. So you've got your health, relationships, fun, career, financial situation. And under each category, I wrote down my dream. Nothing was off limits. I allowed myself to do that. It was just writing down at this stage. So I wrote that down. And then I wrote down why. Why do I want these things? Why do I want to feel this way? Why do I want this to look this way? Because I needed to understand what the motivator was. After I wrote why, I then wrote a plan, because what they tell us, if you make a dream, you don't make a plan, it remains a dream. So this was kind of the plan to turn it into a reality. And then, and this is the part that a lot of people miss, is the gap, I transferred that plan into small, daily, bite-sized actions. And this, by the way, this process took me weeks, because I used to wake up before everyone else, and at the time it was lockdown. I was living in a house with 6 other people. So I was doing this really hush-hush, working on my dreams. And then all I needed to do was do the daily actions and just just show up. So you can imagine 1 year later, when my whole life fell apart, how much I was appreciating what I had done. Because just to give you an example, one of the things I had written was what I wanted in my relationship. In my head, I want to live happily ever after with the father of my kids. And when a year later we broke up after 15 years, please do the math, I was in my late 20s, more than half of my life. I had been in this relationship 15 years. When I broke up, I was like, this is not really aligning with my dream here, And I found myself in a worse situation than when I had done this exercise, because I was with an 8-month-old baby. I have to return to work. I'm on maternity leave. I need to return to work ASAP and work full-time. I ended up having to take a downgrade at work, so a financial hit, because I couldn't do the senior job I was doing with 2 kids, raising them alone. And my health just got worse. I had found out my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. She passed away this March. And it was literally the worst year of my life. My life collapsed. All that I had thought was permanent and everything I had envisaged literally came shattering in front of me. And it's quite paradoxical, right? There I am dreaming, and honestly, that year I was like, fuck the dream, man. This is it's not working. But one thing I had done and continue to do is those daily actions, because by this point, they had become habits and super effortless. So I kept doing the actions because they were part of my routine, And I kept showing up, not really realizing. We can get into that. But I will share for sure. Fantastic question. And I kept showing up. And then in 2024, last year, I'm in the car and I'm like, I'm feeling really good and grateful. I'm looking out the sky. And I have this like reminder, because by this point, 3 years had passed. My life was a mess. I was too busy like putting everything together. I had forgotten about this document, right? I had just shoved it to the side, forget about it. And I have this hunch like, oh yeah, the document. And I park the car really quickly and I go to my house and I open the laptop and I look at this document and I'm seeing what I wrote in 2020 and I'm realizing, fuck, everything that I had written had happened, but not in the way I imagined. So to give you the example of the relationship, it didn't happen with the person I envisaged, but it happened. The career, I wrote about certain things. It didn't happen in the job I was doing, but it happened, you know? And everything, and I got goosebumps. Even after preparing for today, I went back to read it again. And I can't believe, when I wrote these things, I thought they were so far-fetched. And here I am, 5 years later, and when I read it the first time, 4 years later, realizing what had happened. And when I was initially gonna prepare for today, I was gonna go with my childhood story and share that part of me. But because of the frustration I felt and what was happening and being reminded of this part of my life, I'm sharing this with you today. It wasn't my plan, because I want you to know, whoever needs to hear this, dream. Give yourself permission to dream. If you have gotten to a stage you're stuck in your life, or work's taking over, life's taking over, you have one life, one that we are aware of, one in this identity, one life. When are you going to make your dreams come true? In the next one? No. So don't waste another moment living your life if you're not living it on your terms. Thank you very much.
Dercos, recommended by dermatologists. Anti-hair loss protocol. A concentration of aminexil in a scalp treatment to reduce hair loss by 29%. And in a stimulating shampoo to boost volume by 48%. A potent synergy for hair 3 times stronger. Anti-hair loss protocol. By Dercos, the dermatological scalp and hair expert.
Periods are part of the game, but they don't have to throw you off your game. Try new Always Platinum for up to 100% leak protection, faster absorption, dry feel, and it's more cushiony, so you can focus on your game. It's a new Period, always.
I just feel alive.
Thank you, Trudy, and hello, everyone. Really, really nice to be here with you all. Trudy, I have a confession. So when you sent me a message on LinkedIn and said, Tara, do you want to take part? But I didn't even read the full message. I didn't check the date. I didn't check the title. I was like, yes. Then I went back. It's like when Trudy asks you to join something, it's like the Ellen DeGeneres of Malta. You say yes. So it's my husband's birthday tomorrow. It could have been today, whatever. He's having dinner alone. I'm here. But then when I saw the extraordinary stories, I was like, what the hell am I going to say? And I saw these two. I was like, oh, my God. So bottom line, and spoiler alert, the extraordinary part of my story is I quit my job. It's better now, you can hear me. I quit my job last year, just before summer last year. Now, for those of you who don't know me, by the way, I'm half English, half Maltese, born and bred on the island, and married to a Spanish man, hence my fancy surname, but I'm an imposter. So I quit my job. Now, those of you, if you wouldn't know my character, to give you a little bit of a backstory, I have been called annoyingly organized and an organizational queen. I can see my sister like rolling her eyes. I was the child who was told, stop studying. And I think I have my sister to thank for that, because she's 3 years old and she never had to study anything. But the thing is, my sister would read a page of something and it's in her head. I would have to, the way my brain works, I would have to read it twice and write my own notes and use highlighters. I won the prize for diligence like 3 years in a row at school. But that's because I know. I was like, again? Yes, hi. So my parents would say to me, "Ta, be naughty, do something, thanks." So that was my character. So when I talk about being organized, I had a plan for everything, especially my career. My career was my be-all and end-all. My career was my identity. I always loved my jobs. And I remember when I used to study, I had this quote which really stuck with me. And I think, Fran, I had told you about it. It was, do what others won't today, so that later on you can do what others can't. And I think because I really put my head down, and I'm not naturally intelligent, I need to, the highlighters and the notes and my own words. But the first job I got when I graduated from university was working for a company which at that time a lot of people in Malta wanted to work for. If you think of like the gambling space just coming out in 2012, there was like Betson, and then there was this company called TRC Family Entertainment. Now, they didn't know, but I would have, if they didn't give me the job, I would have asked them, like, can I just make coffees? Can I clean the toilets? I just wanted to be in that office. So we had people from Adobe, Cisco, Sky News, Sony. It was amazing. That was the first job I ever had, working in marketing. That was my background. And the last job I had, which I left last year around May, it was a bit of like a longer breakup. I left there around May, and that was I would say, like my dream job. And you tell me, why the hell did you leave your dream job? So I had worked for this business for 7 years. I got 5 promotions in 7 years, and I tripled my salary. And I don't say that in a big-headed way, but I say that in a way for you to understand what my role was like and how it felt for me. To be honest, my role, I sound really privileged. I found my role quite easy. I would get like promotion after promotion because they're like, okay, take the video team. Okay, create a video team and an in-house there. Okay, next. It was easy for me. That was very natural. And when I say I felt like this was it. I used to get taken to Vegas and stay in, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Venetian Hotel. They have like 55 restaurants, 55, and I'm a foodie. So I'd be like, oh my God. I would go to London and would stay at the Ritz, the W Hotel in Barcelona. I had an amazing manager. I reported to one of the owners of the business. I had an amazing team. I had carte blanche. I worked for this business when I got engaged, when I got married, when I had my son. When sadly my mother passed away 3 years ago. So the business was with me through all that, through the highs, through the lows. I had an amazing relationship with everyone. And so you're probably thinking, why the hell did I leave? So I'm going to sound crazy, but like last year in May, my team, we had brought over, we were the sponsors of a Formula One team. If any of you are into like the Haas Formula One team, I really wasn't, but it was in my department, so I had to be. But we had sponsored them. We brought them over to Malta. We had 2 drivers here. And we had their, the principal, the team principal, blah, blah. And I remember sitting there and having dinner with these Formula One drivers. And I know I sound like a bit ungrateful, but I just remember thinking, like, and you said it, like, is this it? remember thinking, Madonna, this is exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted this. I had like, this glamorous lifestyle. I wanted that. And I really wasn't happy. And I remember we had another conference in New York. And I remember sitting in my hotel room in New York and feeling like, blah, like empty. And I remember thinking, Madonna, this is not normal. This is all I've worked for. It doesn't get better than this. It wouldn't get better than that. And you're probably wondering what changed. So I would say could tie this down to two main milestones within my life. So one is, as I mentioned, my mum passed away 3 years ago, and that changed my perspective a lot. And it's not when my mum was diagnosed like yours as well. So it's not when my mum was diagnosed with cancer. I still thought that I was doing brain surgery in my job. I still went on every single trip. I would work till 7 p.m. I remember in August, I had wanted to take a day off for us to go to the beach with mummy. And I thought, no, I can't. I'm too busy with work. How pathetic. Like now. But at that time, even when she was diagnosed and even when she passed away. We had her funeral on the Friday, 7th March. On the Monday, I was back to work, traveling. I thought I was a really good griever. So everyone was looking at me at work saying, Madonna, I was totally fine. Until 3 months later, it hit me like a ton of bricks and I could not get out of bed. And the company I worked for, I remember telling my then manager, listen, Ebba, I need like 2 weeks off. And she was amazing. She was like, I don't care how much time you take off. We're in it for the long haul, whatever you need. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. They never questioned anything. So again, the freaking perfect job. When I went back, Tara, do you want to work reduced hours? Do you want to change your role? Whatever I wanted. They never even spoke about my salary. Nothing. So you tell me, what the hell was I thinking to leave that job? So one other bit I left out of my career. We used to be given a very healthy training budget. So every year we would be given 1,500 euros to spend on like personal development or whatever. And I remember telling my then head of marketing, what am I going to do with this budget? Because every year I was just losing it. Hi, Bob, I didn't see you. Hi, long time no see. And I remember telling him, what can I do? And he had told me, hire a coach. And I was like, for CrossFit, because at that time I was really, really fit. I started like a CrossFit coach. And he said, no, like a business coach. I remember thinking, what the hell is a business coach? And I look at this, leadership coach. I remember saying, what the hell is a coach? So I went in really not expecting much. And I had this online session. It was 2020. It was COVID. And I had this guy on the other side of my screen, Kelly McSherry. And I remember just looking at him when he was talking to me. And I remember saying, oh my God, is this a job? Like, this is your... I couldn't believe that that was a job you could do. When he was talking to me, I was like, what, you do this full time? So for 4 years, I know, now I do it full time. So for 4 years, hi, I didn't see you either, hi. Oh, sorry. I couldn't see anyone down here. So for 4 years, I would spend my training budget on hiring a coach. I hired Kelly for 4 years straight. I bought my husband for his Christmas present 6 sessions with Kelly, my coach. Very annoying because I know, I just shoved it down everyone's throat. I told everyone at work, all my team, I got them to hire a coach, blah, blah. I had tried different ones. And for 4 years, I kept I'd go and tell my husband, Madonna, I really want to do that job. But as if, how can I leave what I'm doing? Who am I going to go work with? Who the hell leaves everything that I had? I must be mad. And I felt really ungrateful when I wasn't feeling happy. And like, I'm going to Vegas and I love Madonna, like I sound like a princess here, but I really wasn't happy. And I remember thinking, so Chloe and Max, my niece and nephew, if I quit, they'll kill me. Because every time I'd go, they'd send me like a list of things to buy from America, like, the Sephora makeup and the Prime thing. I was like, oh my God. But I was just thinking, I was, the energy in me, I'm a very energetic person, but I didn't have that like spark anymore. And I don't say there was a light bulb moment or there was a switch, but I kept telling my husband, I need to do it. I want to be a coach. And I was like, Madonna, but how am I going to leave my company? How am I going to leave all this security? I've been there for 7 years. There was nothing wrong with it. I love my team. I have all the flexibility to pick up my son at whatever time I want, blah, blah. But I must be mad. And I just kept thinking, probably because of, my mother's passing. And it was, I think, 2 years after she passed away. I remember thinking, what the hell? Like, what am I most scared of? I thought without the business name behind me, I'm going to walk into a conference and everyone's going to be like, who the hell is Tara? Like, you know, without that big brand name, without the Formula One sponsorship, not staying in these fancy hotels. By the way, I took my business to Barcelona this year in January. And we went to Barcelona. We did not stay, we as me. We did not stay. We did not stay in the W hotel. I put myself into like this little Airbnb. We had like a communal kitchen with like random people who I met, really lovely women, and we're still in touch now. And it costed me less than it would have costed me there for a week. And I felt freaking amazing. I felt so happy. I remember going into like, you had 2 creaky stairs in my hotel room to go down. And I just felt freaking amazing. I felt so happy. But where I'm going, sorry, I keep going off on tangents. But where I'm going with all this is that I just decided to live life on my own terms. Now, I'm not telling you all, that's the theme of this, but it's like, I'm not telling you all, you know, if you're not happy in your job, go and quit your job. But I'm sure that there is a certain conversation you're not having. Or you're settling for something, and that could be in your marriage, in your business. There's somewhere where you're settling, and I was settling, even though I had it all, I was settling. And it's when I decided, you know what, screw this, like, what are people going to think? Who are people? Who are people? My dad did tell me Mijnunata when I told him I'm leaving, because when I tried to give in my notice, they had told me they thought I was going bonkers. So they said, listen, where are you going? I said, no, nowhere. I just want to work for myself. What? No, Tara, listen, just take a year sabbatical. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So that's why I said I kind of tried to leave in May. So we said we agreed we'll touch base in 3 months. After 3 weeks, I was like, no, listen, I'm not coming back. Find my replacement. Thank you very much. Adios. So I just wanted to keep re-emphasizing the living life on your own terms. Oh, sorry, wait, one more thing I'm going to say. Sorry. And I have to mention this part. You know, I mentioned I had hired a coach. And when I left my job and started working then for myself, we did a full 360. Me and him became business partners, and we were sharing clients together. We had an amazing relationship. We both talk a lot and really fast. So like WhatsApp messages, thank God you can like do them ×2, because I mean, we're just like 3-4 minutes voice messages. And I had a call with him on Friday, 7th March. And we were coaching each other sort of thing, but, you know, we weren't paying each other. But I remember I was coaching him to get onto, he was 52 years old. So he was, you know, older than me, thank you very much. So he was older than me, but he was really insecure about going on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever and taking videos of himself talking. And I was like, Kelly, you're freaking amazing. So he started doing that because I pushed him out of that. 7th March was a Friday. I had my call with him. He was traveling on the 10th March to Macedonia to one of his clients, and he got into a car accident and passed away. So I'm not doing this I got a bit of the shivers. I'm not doing this as a sob story, and I officially hate March because my mother passed 7th March. You mentioned your mother March as well. What date? 20. Thank God my birthday is 5th April. And I'm not saying that for a pity pitch, 5th April me. No, Aries. Taurus. I'm not saying this part about Kelly as, you know, a pity pitch or whatever, but I know, and what gives me real comfort is that I know that Kelly was driving in that car in a really good mood because he freaking loved his job. He really enjoyed working with that client. I remember him really excited. I remember him telling me what he was going to wear and what sort of selfie he was going to. I told him, take a selfie, like walking. He told me, no, I don't like selfie walking, but he took a selfie. He wanted to take a selfie near the screen. And I just remember thinking, Madonna, he died, thank God, not settling. He didn't settle. How many of you drive to a job? Not because, I'm not telling you again, quit the job, but you're avoiding a conversation with your manager or with your mother-in-law or you're complaining. Just stop complaining, do something about it and then move on. So, whatever. And then it's the whole point of, you know, not letting the fear of he was scared and, you know, afraid of what people are going to think of him on a freaking video. I mean, you know. So, thank you very much. You've been a really nice audience, and thank you very much.
Let's go with the vibe.